Hello and welcome. My name is Robert Vasquez and you are watching Bare Bones Media. This channel is dedicated to exploring our community in Pacific County and the wider Pacific Northwest. We will be talking with public officials, entrepreneurs, and new developments in our community. If you have people that you'd like to recommend on this channel, well, feel free to leave a comment or send us an email at barebonesae@gmail.com. Today's interview, we're talking with Sheriff Garcia. Why don't you go ahead and start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak and have another platform or avenue to communicate with the people of Pacific County. Again, I'm Daniel Garcia. My wife and I are residents of Nacelle and have been for about 10 years. My wife is in the Coast Guard and got stationed in Ilwaco 10 years ago, which is what got us here. I was in the Navy as a reservist and in a unit that is, I deploy all the time. And so we had a unique situation that for months out of the year I was at home, and then for months out of the year I was gone. We have 4 sons, Caesar, Roman, Marcus, and Andros. They are aged 14, 12, 5, and 3. We affectionately refer to them as 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's a lot easier to remember.
You don't quite get the names all mixed up where you're like, whoever you are, like, yeah. Get over here.
Yeah, but that's a joke. I retired from the Navy after 22 years of service. The first 5 of those years were on active duty. My rate or job was aviation ordnance. That's bombs, missiles, the guns, and everything that goes boom associated with aviation. When I got off of active duty, I went to college for fire science. I wanted to be a firefighter, lived in San Diego. Quickly after starting college, I realized that I missed camaraderie, and so I joined the reserves. And from the reserves at that time, around 2006, 2007 timeframe, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were hot and heavy. And I wanted to continue to do things. I joined the reserves. I volunteered for deployment and did what's called detainee operations. So at that time, just before, a couple of years before that, or maybe a year before that time frame, Abu Ghraib happened. It was a detention facility that was ran by the Army. There were some lewd pictures and mistreatment of detainees done by some Army units.
Right, I vaguely remember all that.
Yeah. So what the military did is they turned around and said, well, who can we have take this over? And the Navy said, here we are, we've got people, we can do it. So they created what was called Naval Provisional Detainee Battalions, started grabbing sailors from across the fleet to create them, and then we went off to trainings to be taught by the Army on how to do those missions. And then from there, I went to Naval Special Warfare. I served as an armorer for SEAL teams, did a couple of deployments with the SEAL teams in Iraq. From there, I went to, it's called MESRON, Maritime Expeditionary Security Squadrons, small boat security overseas for our large ships. If you recall, in 2000 timeframe, there was a bombing of the USS Cole in Yemen. And at that time, the Navy decided we need to protect our assets downrange. And so they looked to the Navy to create the security units. From there, we turned into what was called Coastal Riverine. So they merged the Riverine boat units with the Maritime Security boat units to create these squadrons. Essentially, my job didn't change. It was the same portion of it, just the active duty units had a Riverine component to it. After that, I went back to Naval Special Warfare and was attached to SEAL Team 17. That is a reserve SEAL team on the West Coast, SEAL Team 18's on the East Coast. And I was a part of a unit for UAS. UAS is Unmanned Aerial Systems, and we fly the aviation drones. Drone's the wrong word for it, but that's what everybody calls them. And we provide ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, organically to the SEAL teams. My last deployment was for that. My team and I went on our deployment through COVID. I was deployed through all of that mess.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what officially brought you up into this area?
So officially, my wife being stationed here at Cape Disappointment is what got us here. That was 10 years ago. And so, I just condensed probably 16, 17 years of time frame into a short snippet. But while I was doing those deployments, we lived here.
Oh, okay.
So my wife was going to work every day. My sons were going to school at Nacelle.
So prior to that, you guys were down in San Diego for a bit? Okay.
We were in San Diego.
Yeah, I got a friend down on the base down there. Today's episode of Bare Bones Media is brought to you by Peninsula Driving School. If you or somebody you know is interested in obtaining their Washington State driver's license, there is no better place to start than a DOL certified driving school. Peninsula Driving School offers a 15-week course giving you the skills and techniques needed to obtain your driver's license, as well as keep you and others safe on the road. Peninsula Driving School is dedicated to creating safer drivers and safer roads. Sign up for their next course at peninsuladrivers.com. Our sponsor links is found down below. So you came up here. Mm-hmm. How did you end up getting involved and becoming sheriff and all that stuff? I mean, so some kids talk about how when they grow up they want to be one of the Paw Patrol or something like that, right? Or want to be a sheriff, or as you mentioned, firefighter. So this obviously wasn't what you were growing up dreaming to do, right? Right.
When we moved up here, I quickly was recruited to the Nacelle Fire Department. It's a volunteer department in Nacelle. It is the only volunteer fire department in Pacific County that is BLS certified. So that's Basic Life Support certified. So our ambulances we can transport with basic life support. So that means we have EMTs on board. It started with I needed my bow tuned. I needed work done on it, and so we have a local bow tech realtor, and he works on bows and he teaches calling. Is a local namestay out in Nacelle. His name's Bert Haven, and I went to him to work on my bow. And while I was there, we started talking, and he found out that I was in the Navy, and he told me that he used to be in the Navy, and so we got to chatting, and I had shared with him a little bit of what I had done. And part of that was that in the Navy I was, it's called CLS, Combat Lifesaver Qualified, and he said, "Oh, really? Well, if you come to our meeting next Monday, we can vote you in and get you on the fire department." And I said, "Oh, really?" I had told him that I had went to college for fire science, and so that next Monday I was voted onto the department and started volunteering there. And with my kids going to the school, I got to meet a lot of the community. I started coaching and assistant coaching baseball and soccer. Yeah. Which then I got to meet more families. Fast forward a little bit, my wife being stationed at Cape Disappointment in Oahu, she had a dealing with the school. I think it was for furniture or something like that. And she had ran into and met the athletic director, which at the time was also the head coach of wrestling. In their conversation, she mentioned that her husband wrestled, and he had said that they needed help. And so she came home and told me. And then I reached out to him. Shortly thereafter, filled out my paperwork and started volunteer assistant coaching for Ilwaco wrestling. After that, I went on another deployment, and that kind of ruined that that aspect. I had to submit my resignation so they could fill it with another. In the 10 years that I had been here, my wife and I had inserted ourselves into the community and had started to meet people. But outside of those groups, I had grown up being taught to be a quiet professional. So being a quiet professional, you don't run around telling everybody everything that you do and what
Right.
you've done and all that stuff. So up to that point, everybody had only known that I was in the Navy and my wife was in the Coast Guard, and that we volunteer. And it was only until I was retiring, I helped bring a group of people together at the community center in Nacelle to discuss fentanyl and why it's bad. In the Navy, what Naval Special Warfare does, to condense it to a simple one line, is we hunt terrorists. On the front side of the drug epidemic is the growing of the drugs that then funds terrorist activity from the sale of those drugs. And so anyway, it's all kind of intertwined and looped. So I had gotten in those communications or conversations with the community, and we started talking about Pacific County and that drugs were a big problem here. And I had shared some of my experiences as an EMT with overdoses, and they had mentioned that the sheriff was going unopposed for the next election. And I said, well, that doesn't make sense. Normally there's opposition.
Right.
And then they also went to lay out issues within the county. So then someone had asked me, well, why don't you run for sheriff? And I kind of laughed, and I gave them about 1,000 excuses of why not.
Yeah.
And those same excuses were the reasons why I was retiring from the Navy. And that largely had to do with being at home with my family.
Right.
I had missed a whole lot of my children's upbringing. My wife and I firmly believe that the most important thing that we'll ever give or do for this world is give it for good men. So in order to do that, we have to be vested in their growth, and I can't do that if I'm not home. But on the topic of growing good men, I'm always teaching my sons that we protect those who cannot or will not protect themselves, and we do the right thing all of the time. And if you see a problem that exists and you know that you can do something about it, you don't walk on by. And it started to weigh on my conscience, because that's exactly what I was doing, was walking on by. Mm-hmm. And I have to walk the walk if I'm going to talk the talk.
Yeah.
And so that then led me to start doing research. And so I did a month and a half or so, maybe 2 months of research, and started meeting with some leaders of the community. And I got some information of what the issues were in the county, and I started to draw my own conclusions of what the root problems are. I'm a very fundamental person, and you cannot fix something if you don't address the root cause of it.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a really good point, because oftentimes, especially with all the different things that I've had my hands in over the years, the tendency is to deal with symptoms and not necessarily root causes. And, at that point, you just start chasing all these other, odds and ends until you're finally overwhelmed and things either can't sustain themselves or you have to just completely restructure or whatever. So, but yeah, understanding and being able to identify what the root cause is probably the vital part of good leadership, honestly. So you enter this race, and end up sheriff.
Yeah.
Now, what is it that sheriffs actually do? Like, what's on the plate?
The office of the sheriff is extremely important. The reason it's extremely important is because the sheriff is elected by the people. So the power of the sheriff is given to him or her by the people directly. And he is accountable to every single person in his county and every person that comes into the county. There is no layers of bureaucracy there. It is a very unique relationship. And so I don't think that many people grow up understanding that.
Yeah, it's something that I've been talking about with others, and it's, there's a lot within the United States and how we function that really is representative.
So our country as a whole, we are a constitutional representative republic. So what that means is we operate under the rule of law, and that law starts with our U.S. Constitution. So nowadays, that's a super controversial thing. I don't know why the Constitution would be made out to be a negative thing, but that is what they're doing. I don't think what everybody realizes is that everybody's freedoms, everybody's comforts, everything that we have and everything that we are was started with those documents.
That's all going back to kind of the root cause thing. Right?
Yes.
Like this is a foundational thing. If you lose it at its core, everything else that are the benefits of it go along with it. I mean, as much as you have problems, you still have like foundational, structural things. So, if you have a good foundation, everything else is going to be pretty solid.
Yep.
If it's getting pretty rickety, there's probably some other problems down the way. But again, you take out that foundation, everything else is going to collapse.
Yep. Constitution is at the very top. If you were to, in general, talk to people, they would say that, well, what the Constitution does is it gives us our rights. Well, that's not correct.
Right.
Your rights are yours, and those are granted to you by your Creator.
The inalienable rights.
Yep, inalienable rights. That means they cannot be taken away by man, period. And so the Creator is the starting point. The Constitution outlines that and recognizes it. And then the government instituted by men is there to protect those rights.
Right.
So it's all fundamental.
Yeah.
And civics is an important part of understanding why we are and what we are. Me having gone down a road of education to learn all of these things, and I'm still on that road, has opened my eyes, and it's made the path in front of me extremely clear. Not easy, but simple. That's the path that I've been walking for quite some time, and I continue to walk. And in this relationship between me and the people of Pacific County, I work for them. Everything that we do in the sheriff's office is for the people of Pacific County. There's two questions that are asked when we go forth to make a decision. The first one is, will this make us more effective? And two, does it serve the people? So with those simple guiding principles, we are able to address all the issues that exist in the county. Now, that being said, without a ton more money and a ton more people, we can't implement solid solutions. We can only have concessions. So what I mean by that is if we are addressing this problem over here, well, we're not addressing some issue over here. So we're shifting to meet the need in an order of precedent. So one of the first things we did in the beginning was to order the problems in the county. And at the top are the major crimes with victims, with murder at the very top, and then robberies and drug crimes and thefts, stuff like that. These are all kind of intertwined. If you pay attention to the cases in the courtroom that are being wrapped up now, they're all kind of intertwined, but we can't do that without the people. We've been on this march path to fill all our vacant slots, because I can't rightly tell the commissioners that we need more people when I can't even fill what we have.
Well, that kind of all brings me to the next question, which is dealing with the job and stuff, what are some of the major challenges that you've encountered? Internal
to the office, one of the challenges are getting everybody to operate as a team. So in my opinion, the way things operated before were very siloed and separate from one another. That is not a very effective way for the entire office to fulfill one shared goal. Pacific County as a whole was like that. You had North County and you had South County, and even still it's somewhat like that. Everything that I do is to try and erase those lines and and have us operate together as a county. You had the different municipalities in the county. South Bend, Raymond work real good together because they're right next to each other. And Waco, Long Beach work real good together because they're right next to each other. But they didn't necessarily work well together north and south due to geographical separation and things that. But there are many issues that don't care about the municipality lines. They don't care about even county lines, but so we have to address those as a team. That's one of the major issues, and I think we've done a good job of coming together to make major things happen. Earlier on, the swatting call that we had at Ilwaco was one of the things I think that projected us forward to work together better, because it forced in real life, in real time, everybody to respond to that. And we were able to highlight a bunch of issues. We were also able to see the areas that, and I was able to see firsthand how well everybody acted, and that everybody was willing and wanting to address the threat. At least here in our county, there is no one that would want to sit by and not do something when there's an active threat going.
Oh yeah. And as far as I recall, that was going on throughout the states too. There's quite a few other places. I think everybody's response to it, like even though like this, it being kind of the hoax it was troublesome, but everybody was able to like put their attention to how to respond and all of that stuff, and it really got people working together and figuring out how well they can do all of that. So one of the unique things in your position is you'll be responding to incidences or things like that, and not necessarily finding people on like their best day, right? It's not like doctors who are bringing a new life into the world, or somebody working at Disneyland, right? How does that kind of play into the job, and kind of challenging at some point?
So on the firefighter EMT side, taught in the very beginning that you will be entrusted in people's spaces on their worst days. And so that's a big responsibility, and it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly, and that everybody's a human. Everybody's someone's daughter, son, father, mother, aunt, uncle, friend, neighbor. That's where training, professionalism, and a duty and responsibility, a sense of duty and a sense of responsibility in a profession like this comes into play. This isn't a 9-to-5 job, and nobody comes here to get rich. Everybody who comes here should want to serve others. It's a very selfless and thankless job, and so you shouldn't be getting into it for praise. Being able to look at everybody as they're your brother or sister is in my opinion, of utmost importance, which also means that to be in a profession like this, your moral and ethical character has to be of utmost. After that, a selfless devotion to serve the people, and then after that, your experiences and aptitude and stuff like that. So when we are hiring, we're looking for those top two first, and then as far as training and experience, we can train that. But having someone with a deep, genuine care is most important.
Yeah. I think that's a vital part to being a good asset in the community. We've run our boba shop, and we get people in all the time, and for however much we love our product and love what we do, the biggest thing that I've always told like our employees, our best commodity is hospitality. Letting people come in and actually genuinely just given a little bit of a time to care about them. And it's kind of a philosophy that I have as a parent with my kids, and it's just like, it's not enough to just take care of your own kid. Like, if you're not caring for the other kids in your community, you're not really caring for your own kid. And it's kind of who you are in the community that really matters. And if we all as individuals are doing that, the whole community is going to be really good. And that kind of brings up some of the other question that I have, which is, you've obviously been all over the place. I know that I've traveled around and seen a bit of, every place is different. Every place has its own pros and its own cons. So what are some of the difficulties and challenges facing our community here in Pacific County?
At the top, Pacific County is geographically pretty large and uniquely separated by bays and waterways, which make it difficult for services such as medical, fire, law, public works, things of that nature.
Right.
Second, we are low in number. The amount of people in the county sits around 24,000-ish. In the summertime, in the tourist months, we exponentially increase. Right. And so our services are not adequate to service the amount of people that come in at those times. Yet the demand for services is still there.
Right.
And we have to support that. What that does is that puts an extraordinary strain on everybody that does work within those services. That being said, the county, we are a rural distressed county. And by statute, by Washington State RCW, which is law, a county is only allowed to have a certain amount of money total based off of the assessed value of the county. That means that we can never stack our chips and get ahead and really plan for a rainy day. The reason for that statute back in the day was to ensure that counties aren't going around just increasing taxes and taxing the heck out of their people.
Right.
But what that does is that puts us into a situation, again, like I stated, we can't plan for the rainy days. We can only chug forward with what we have. So that means that when hard times come, hard decisions need to be made and programs and people need to be cut. That puts us in this tough scenario where I, as the sheriff, I can plan and make priorities and adjust my budget so that we can continue to serve the people. But as an entire county goes, what are the priorities? Where do cuts need to be made? And those are tough decisions. That's where support from the people need to be brought to play. That's where people need to indicate what they feel is most important, what we as a county need before those times come. So that is an extremely large issue that we have to deal with. All counties have it, but in particular, rural distressed have it the hardest. So that being said, the municipalities are not that same way. They're not limited with the amount of money that they can have as a municipality to be able to fund programs or pay their people more. So when you look at pay in our county, some of the officers in the county make a lot more than the deputies that I have on staff. Why should that matter? Good thing for those officers, but when you look at it, each municipality sits with a few thousand people in it, and each law enforcement agency in those municipalities has around 5 people, give or take. They manage a 24-hour schedule to service that 2 mile by 2 mile box of which they sit. That's dramatic. Each one's a little larger than 2 miles by 2 miles. Right. But in comparison to the 1,500 square feet of the entire county, square miles of the county, it's relatively small. The deputies of the county service the 24,000 people in the county over, like I stated, the 1,500 square miles of which we geographically sit. So on any given day, they're putting in hundreds and hundreds of miles on their vehicles and handling twice as many calls individually. For more work, more time, longer distances, they get paid less. So on a fundamental premise, as you look at it on its face, that's that's not right. That being said, it's very nuanced. Don't let me tell you that the officers should be paid less. That's certainly not what I'm saying. And don't let me tell you that, or make you think that it's a simple fix that we just need to pay our people more.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. It's hyper nuanced. So going back to the question, that's kind of at the top, because that then fundamentally dictates how we're able to address the issues in the county.
Right. Yeah, it's usually financial issues that end up leading to people's pretty much tools and assets that they can actually use to execute their job. You know?
Yep.
And it's the same thing that I've seen in other parts of the county. You know, it's usually the financial issues pretty high up there, because that determines how much access everybody else can have to do the job, be equipped to do the job that they have to do.
Yep.
And it's a challenge.
Aside from logistics and
Right.
financials, we're a small town. Any which way you slice it, we're a small town.
Yeah.
And you being here for only 3 years, you've probably got like another 50 to go before you're a local.
Yeah, I'm sure.
and even with me only being here 10 years, I still have people welcoming me to Pacific County. So that being said, talk runs rampant and really fast. So it's why we try to put in as much effort as the sheriff's office to be able to communicate directly to the people, to cut out any misinterpretations of things. I actually wanted to lead off in this interview. I had spaced it as we started talking about stuff, but some of the more loud voices online, they try to make this whole deal about me as a person, and none of this has anything to do with me. I am only here because I think that I could provide service to the community, that I have a skill set that was built up over 22 years and over hardship and determination and fortitude to be able to sit this seat and lead this team and help do everything that we can to serve the people. Me as an individual has nothing to do with it, and so it's kind of disheartening when you see or read online all this stuff about me. That's a selfish aspect and the wrong path, as I'm focused on the entire county and trying to chop it into chunks that we can then address. I see them as distractors, and we're working to ignore those things, but that too goes back to the question of challenges of Pacific County. So that the small townness of Pacific County is one of those challenging factors. We also have, people didn't know, since the late 1800s, Pacific County, in particular the peninsula here, the Long Beach Peninsula, has been a hideout for criminals from the major metropolitan areas such as Seattle and Portland to come here and hide out from the law. So there are there's generational acceptance of bad and illegal behavior, which then creates enclaves of areas that support and or allow illegal things to happen and go on. So then all the other people that move in here because it's a quaint, quiet little place, then become victimized in the wake of all of that. But it's deep-rooted, long-seated, and it's nothing that's going to be fixed in a short amount of time. But I think we're headed in the right direction, and I think me being elected speaks volumes to that people are sick of it and would like it to be addressed, and so that's essentially what we're doing.
So are there certain things that you're like focused on that you want to give attention to right now, like high priority issues for you, or?
So it started with the murder cases.
I'm actually pretty much out of the loop on everything, so I don't know anything.
Over the last year and a half, we've had more murders than over the prior 10 years.
Now, is this something that is I mean, as far as I'm aware, that's pretty much happening all over the place, particularly along the East Coast or West Coast. You know, we've seen, I mean, everybody, half the people that come talking about Portland or leaving Portland, or, how they used to love Portland and now they don't want to go over there because they've gone, I think last I saw was like 200% increase in crime rate and all that. So is this something that's following that, or is this something that's unique?
Well, it could be following that,
Okay.
and now making its way in. Most of those murders were family on family, or person in some sort of relationship. The increase is on the drug scale. Like I had stated, that this area has been a hideout for a long time.
Right.
It's contributed to what we're seeing today. We have only one jail in the entire county. We don't have enough staff in there to be able to house the number of people that we should be housing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Could jam pack them in there like sardines, of which has happened in the past, up to just below 60. But that becomes a super dangerous thing for the corrections deputies,
right.
And I don't want that, because that sets us up for a danger. Last December, there was a death in the jail of an inmate that's still being worked on and not completely wrapped up yet. But it's not a secret that it happened, and right. I would like to ensure it doesn't happen again.
Right.
We've been working on filling the empty spots, like I had stated earlier.
Yeah. Now, is there a lot of those? Can you tell me a bit about the spots you're looking to fill and
vacancies?
All that? Yeah.
So we have one in the jail. On this round of budgeting, I've requested 3 additional positions in the jail. That's the only place throughout the whole office that I've requested additional bodies. I'm not an unreasonable person.
Right, it sounds warranted.
Yeah. And I also don't like negotiating. So what I ask for is what I think that we need. And so the intent is to build the foundation and then go up from there, build, go up, build, go up, and build, sustain, and then go up, build, sustain, go up. That being said, we had vacancies on the road. We've recently filled those vacancies. So it'll take some time before they're all done with training, either it's called BLEA, Basic Law Enforcement Academy, of which I'm currently doing. So we have some in the pre-BLEA pipeline. We have some that are post-BLEA in what's called FTO, field training. And then once they're done with that, they will be able to be on their own on the road. So until that time, though, we are still strapped because we're unable to just spread out and patrol. We're unable to fill a full schedule 24/7 with the small amount of bodies that we have.
Right.
So even though we now have 13 deputies, only 8 of them are on their own, and then a few of them have trainees. Someone with a trainee is less effective than they could be by themselves, is less effective than if they had an additional partner out available to respond, so on and so forth. Now, we have worked to ensure that we're visible. We have worked to readjust the schedule so that we have multiple people on during the highest call volumes of time, where in the past it was someone gets off, someone comes on, someone gets off, someone comes on. Right. And now they shifts overlap so that it's not so taxing on the one that is on in the area. Right. In the past, the county has been broken into zones. So people were hired to be a North County deputy or hired to be a South County deputy. Well, what that ends up happening is the South County deputies, their experience level and the number of calls that they respond to just steadily increases, and not at the same pace or rate as the North County. And that's just due to the concentration of people being down here. Right. In order to spread the experience, they swap shifts
Right. So they rotate around. Yeah.
They work north for, I hate to call it a break, but for a less back-to-back
Right.
call volume. The other thing that cascades to when you're that busy and you have this little people is each call is a case. And that case needs to be investigated, and it needs to be written up, and it needs to be concluded. Let's say you have 5 cases in any given 12-hour shifts.
Right.
And 2 of them require follow-up and extensive investigation.
Right.
What takes precedence? What takes priority? If it's a crime with a victim, that takes precedence and priority.
Right.
The person who's upset at their neighbor for having a dog that got off the leash and ate their azaleas or whatever kind of pretty flower or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a low-level case, a low-level call that takes a little longer to wrap up. You end up getting individuals that are upset because they didn't get the attention that they deserved. And for that, we apologize at this time, but we're working to close those gaps so then we can handle all the calls. But at this time, we have prioritized the level of calls to be able to be effective. The hope is that once all of our road deputies are on their own, we can then more comfortably fill the entire schedule. Then we will have someone out 24/7. When a call goes out, you'll see a deputy. Yeah. Where some of the calls, they only receive a phone call.
So to kind of wrap everything up, so people that are like me, that are involved in community and all that stuff and are interested in the things going on, what are some things that we can do to help support our county sheriffs or even just, our, first responders?
Yeah. So we have a very good relationship with all of the fire and EMS throughout the county. So if there are issues that exist, reach out to those agencies, allow them the opportunity to fix it before turning around and making a complaint to the public about whatever your scenario is. That happens quite often. They always say don't read the comments, but sometimes I read the comments. And so I'll see a complaint about something, and then we'll go and we'll look it up and come to find out there's no matching call for that complaint. Yeah. And so that individual had their issue and didn't tell us. So we weren't even able to address it. Or we weren't even able to tell them, I'm sorry, we can't do anything about it. Right. It was just a complaint. So 1, reach out when you have something to say. 2, when you have tips, email us. I would prefer you email co.pacific.wa.us.
All right, I'll be sure I'll get that link in there for you.
We'll put that, I don't know how you do it, but right here, or up there, or right here. Email that, because that email goes to multiple people in the command staff to ensure that it doesn't get lost. Yeah. Some people email me directly, and every now and again, because I get so many emails in a day, that it gets missed, and then they don't get a response from me for like a month, and then they're pissed off at me because it was so long. Right. So I apologize when that happens, but if you email the PCSO info, it won't get missed, or should not get missed. Yeah. And you'll then get your question addressed. So those 2 things. In addition, if you have something else within the county, especially if it's like public works and has something to do with safety, if you CC us when you're emailing that other entity of the county, we can then work in conjunction together to address it. The DCD, Department of Community Development, they have few people as well. So the more informed each agency is about whatever the issue is, the better we can serve you, working together as a team. Gone are the days that we'll just say, well, that's a That's a public works issue. Contact them. We may direct you to contact them, but I want to be CC'd. I want to know about it. That way we can, if there's anything else that we can do to help them, we'll do it, and vice versa. And then lastly, I would say get involved. One of the reasons that I'm here is because our country was set up so that once an individual in their life and in their career gets to a point that they can break away, they take a pause from whatever they were doing and they serve the community in an elected position. They serve until their time is up and then they go back to their life. That's how our country was set up to run. And we've gone away from that. We've kind of allowed this ruling class of individual that goes from elementary to high school to college to interning to politics. And they've never been in the real world.
Right.
That is a fundamental problem for me. They pay no repercussion for their decisions that they make.
Yep.
And so that then makes it easy to not have you in mind as the people when making those decisions. Instead of having a list of complaints, being pissed off about it, telling everybody about your complaints, say, there's a problem, here I am, send me, and then help us out. Communicate with the commissioners. If you feel strongly about something, communicate with them. If it has something to do with law or crime or something of that nature, communicate with me. Let us know about it. If you feel strongly that something needs to change, well then put it on your ballot. If you think that you have something to offer, well then step up to the plate. This is hyper uncomfortable. I never wanted to open my life up to everybody, but I have, because it's a necessity to be able to be honest with the people. Again, like I had stated in the beginning, that I was working to be a quiet professional.
Right.
When I opened up my life and I explained to everybody that I'm retiring from 22 years in the Navy and was a senior chief and had been on 9 deployments, I wasn't doing that to build myself up. I was doing that just to outline that I have plenty of experience in leadership to be able to sit this seat and do what I'm doing. Quite comfortable here. It is uncomfortable allowing all those people in and talking about myself all the time, but I think it's a necessity, and so I think others should step up and join me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in.
All right, thank you, sir.
And that wraps up our interview for today on Bare Bones Media. I really hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have people that you would like to see on this channel, well, leave a comment or send us an email at barebonesae@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.